What's going on, guys? Andrew Piluk here, back with another video, and today, as you can see by the title, we're going to be talking about William Nylander once again. Now, I know it's tiring. You're hearing about Nylander basically every time you're on any sort of social media, when you turn on the television, and I kind of wanted to make this video as kind of like a timeline of the rumors and this trade nonsense that's been going on within the last week or so. Now, if you guys have been subscribed to this channel, you'll notice that last week or maybe 2 weeks ago, I can't remember when I posted it, I talked about William Nylander, and I was kind of losing my mind a little bit because I wasn't happy with people making up fake rumors and starting stuff that wasn't necessary. So, to prove to you guys that stuff changes all the time, I'm going to be bringing up photos, tweets, whatever. I have it in front of me here on my laptop, so that way I can explain it to you guys better. I put some notes together because I just want to show you guys how quickly some things change and why you should only trust certain media outlets or certain individuals that work for certain media outlets, because some of this stuff is just so all over the place and wrong that it's not even funny, and there's no real facts or real let's say proof behind a lot of the rumors or things that are being said. So I want to bring all this up to you guys in this video, so hopefully if you're new you will subscribe, because I'd love to have more hockey conversations with you. I just appreciate everybody that wants to stick around, and yeah, so we're gonna get into this video. So I would just also like to add that tonight is Saturday night. The Leafs do play the Jets. It's Saturday, October 27th, and that's when I'm recording this. So if you're watching this at another date and something else has been said, I can't predict the future. But also that I wanted to make this video before tonight, because Elliot Friedman probably will have more info. Chris Johnson will also probably have more info for Saturday night headlines on Hockey Night in Canada. So we'll probably get an update. So I wanted to pack in as much as possible for you guys here. Enough talking. All right, so like I said, I'm going to try to go through a couple things as we go here, and I wanted to first start off with Kyle Dubas going to a bunch of random hockey games last week. So I'm going to pull up a tweet first for you guys. There's going to be a couple that I'm going to bring up. So the first one is from Adam Kimmelman. I'm sorry, I have no idea who this is, and that's no disrespect to him. I just hadn't heard of him, but he brought up a tweet here that says, Maple Leafs GM Kyle Dubas is in Philly tonight for the Flyers-Avalanche game. Politely declines comment other than to say he just enjoys getting out to watch games. Leafs don't play again until Wednesday. So that was when the Leafs had some days off before they had played the Winnipeg Jets on Wednesday. So Kyle Dubas, because he's a general manager, can go and watch other games, and you know, people are saying he's scouting talent, whatever. Of course, he's a GM, he's going to do that, and I'll get to that in a second. And here's a Bob McKenzie tweet that I wanted to bring up. So while many are trying to connect the potential trade dots on Toronto GM Kyle Dubas being at last night's New York Rangers Calgary game at Madison Square Garden, again, he was at another game, which I suppose is possible. It's worth noting two things. William Nylander's agent, Louis Gross, lives in Manhattan, and two, Dubas likes to go to hockey games. So, a lot of people are trying to connect the dots, again, like he said in this tweet, that he was at these games because he was trying to put together, you know, some notes on who he would get for trades and stuff like that. From what we understand from tweets and from what Bob McKenzie has been saying, William Nylander's agent and Kyle Dubas met twice over a 2-day span, and again, they were just talking whatever, so that's why he was there at those games. And again, it doesn't hurt if you're an NHL GM to watch a hockey game. Like, people, this is what I had to say. I think I might have mentioned it in my last video, or I might have said it in a tweet, and I'm sure other people have said this. If you're an NHL GM, it's your job to use, you know, your sources that you have, like your scouting department, whatever, and yourself, of course, because Kyle Dubas has been in this business since he was like 15 for scouting, whatever, through all the OHL, AHL, and now the NHL. If you have the privileges to go and watch games, you have time off to be able to go and, you know, sit in on an NHL game, especially when a team like Toronto could be looking at certain teams to buy players from them either this season, next season, whatever. Like, you do that. You're a GM. It's not uncommon for NHL GMs to go to games when they have time to watch games. Like Marc Bergevin's done it before, but nobody says, oh my God, there's all these trades that are going to happen, especially with a guy like him. Like, there's a bunch of scouts, GMs, whatever, that go. Sometimes GMs will send scouts to games because they don't want to go themselves because they have other duties to do or whatever. You know, Dubas has probably done that before, but Kyle Dubas is a guy that likes to go to these games. It's been said multiple times, and especially from a guy like Bob McKenzie, you have to take that. So he's a GM, guys. Like, regardless of if Nylander is being traded or if he's signing whatever, he's going to go to games because that's his job as a GM. Him and his scouting department and whoever have to go and look at talent, evaluate talent, and that's probably, you know, the reason why he was there. Again, it could be anything, but that's my take on it, regardless of a trade or whatever. So the next thing I wanted to bring up was from October 23rd, and it's from one of my favorites that I keep telling people, if you're going to focus on certain people, this is one of the guys, Chris Johnston from Sportsnet. This is a guy that you should like listen to for sure, along with Bob McKenzie and Elliot Friedman. So he tweeted out the fact that William Nylander did not practice with the DEC Bulldogs in Austria this morning. He practiced with them 3 times last week and used their ice yesterday as well. So this is another quick thing that I'm going to bring to you guys. William Nylander, of course, as we know, was practicing, and then Dubas and him had met up in Switzerland, and like there's a, you know, how the whole train started. You guys heard about it from a billion people. You don't need to hear more from me other than the fact that Dubas and Louis Gross and William Nylander, Louis Gross being the agent, of course, met up Switzerland. They went to like common ground, and Nylander was practicing in Austria with a team for for like a week or whatever, like it says in this tweet, and he used their ice as well. Like you've seen some Instagram videos of him posting stuff of him on the ice. He was in Leafs gear, whatever, and then like a practice jersey. This is where I want to bring something up, as in, yeah, he was practicing, but from this is what I wanted to bring up next, and this tweet that will pop up is from a Twitter account called Complete Hockey News. And again, I'm not like sponsored, or like I don't know who this Twitter account is. It's not a verified account, so I don't take like all this information from them and be like, oh, this must be real. It's just something that made sense that I wanted to say. So they're basically in this tweet saying that where's William Nylander? He's in Austria, which is true. You can see the jersey that he was wearing. We've seen it in multiple videos. He was with that team skating in Austria. So apparently Nylander was there visiting his sister, Jacqueline, or if that's how you pronounce it, or Jacqueline, who was competing in a tennis tournament. So from what I heard and from what I looked up, his sister does get herself in tennis tournaments or whatever. Like, I think she's a pro tennis player. Again, I'm not sure if she's officially pro, but she does play tennis. And from articles that I was translating, of course I can't translate it, I had to click the translate button, but she was playing tennis there. Her father was there. There was people in attendance from the family, and it appears that Nylander was just there to get some ice time because he was visiting his sister. So I mean, the reason why he was not on the ice anymore was probably because his sister's tournament was over. And from what I read, that the tournament was over, Nylander did leave. And I mean, I don't think that we should be taking this into, like, on that date, on the 23rd, people were freaking out. And I'll bring up more, because that was on the 18th when he had first got there, whatever, and was watching the tournament or whatever. And that's why on the October 23rd, that last tweet I brought up with Chris Johnston saying that he wasn't on the ice anymore was because the tournament or whatever was over, the family had left. So remember, October 23rd, and you're going to see some tweets here, and this is what I wanted to bring up. So, okay, first I'll start off with Nick Kypreos because I don't have a ton to say about this. He put, hearing the Leafs and Nylander continue strong dialogue for potential resolution. To my knowledge, no pending deal as of yet, but the talks of a possible 6-year term being discussed allows Leafs to lock in first UFA year while raising his average annual value. Speculation on my part, but thinking 6.5 to 7 million per. So, people ran with that. People were saying that, oh my God, this is going to happen. First, Chris Johnston said that he wasn't on the ice anymore, which wasn't speculation. He just wasn't on the ice anymore. And then Nick Kypreos was saying, oh my God, there could be a deal here. We're not sure. There's strong dialogue, whatever. Here's another thing I want to bring up, and I will get back to Kypreos and something else involving Bob McKenzie. This also came out on October 23rd, and I'm kind of like, my blood's boiling a little bit because this is something that a lot of people are unsure of, and if you don't do your homework on certain people, certain personalities, you're probably unsure of who Dean Blundell is. So this is a Dean Blundell article where he said, sources, William Nylander deal is imminent within 48 hours at the latest. So there's a blue check mark there. And also, a lot of people were responding to this saying, Dean Blundell broke the Tavares news. I hate to break it to you guys, but he didn't. He actually wasn't the one that broke the news, and people are saying that he was. There was other accounts, I believe David Pagnotta, and then there was somebody else. And again, Pagnotta is not exactly the best source, but he was one of the first people to talk about it, and there was another account that I can't remember that broke the Tavares stuff. Dean Blundell doesn't have sources. So let me give you guys a little background on Dean Blundell, and I'll keep the tweet up there so you guys can see, but because this is just ridiculous, him saying that it was going to happen. And this, of course, was on the 23rd when all this, he's not on the ice, Kiprio saying this, now Dean Blundell this. I listened to Dean Blundell on the radio a lot in Canada growing up because every morning he was on when I would go to high school, and he was what we like to call a shock jock. And I took the radio broadcast program. I'm a college graduate. Everything that he would do and say or whatever resembles a shock jock, where it's like, basically, he would say stuff so that way people would be like, oh my God, like, did he really just say that? You know, that kind of thing. So this didn't surprise me when I seen that Dean Blundell was trying to spark some stuff up. Now, Dean Blundell has been fired previously by that job that I was listening to him on the radio. And if you don't believe me, you could search up any of his bits or whatever. He was a very insensitive person. He said a lot of very rude and mean things at times. There was times where he just made normal jokes and he was funny or whatever. And we listened to him in the car. But I wasn't a fan of the way that he went after people, innocent people that were just, doing their own thing and didn't find these jokes funny. He was also a guy that publicly made fun of or poked jokes at the lesbian and gay community, and I'm not a fan of that because I support, the lesbian and gay community. I support any love no matter what it is, and that just kind of shoved me away from him, and he was eventually canned. He got fired because you can't say stuff like that. He apologized, whatever. Time went on. He got hired by Sportsnet. He had his own thing at Sportsnet, but he was fired because they said, from what I read and from what I seen from official people that work at Sportsnet, said that he was not up to par with other shows that were on Sportsnet because he just doesn't have the same knowledge as them. So put two and two together, you realize that this guy just doesn't have the sources, okay? This guy, Dean Blundell, is not a valuable source for anything. If you go on his website, he also has this thing where he has like Babe of the Day, where he shows like half-naked girls and all this other stuff like that. Guys, please, these sources are not real. Please stop listening to people like this. Last time I checked, it's the 27th. It didn't happen in 48 hours at the latest, okay? So this is BS. Stop believing in this crap, okay? There's no sources here whatsoever. Okay, so that was the 23rd. Now, I also want to bring something else up, and like I said, Bob McKenzie. If you guys search up, because anybody can do it, please listen to this, because a lot of people say, well, you have no proof of this. Type in Bob McKenzie Nylander on YouTube, on Twitter, anywhere. Tons of stuff pops up. He has said before in late September that the Leafs were not taking any calls on Nylander when it came to a trade. He also mentioned the fact that even after all of this stuff, people saying the deal is imminent, Kiprio saying there's a 6-year deal that could be in place, or that there's rumors of it, whatever. Bob McKenzie did this whole speech, and I believe, is it called Overdrive? I can't remember the show, but if you go on TSN and type in Nylander or Bob McKenzie, whatever, it pops up. And it's basically him talking about how when he talks about things, he doesn't report saying this is a real report. He says it's a rumor. And this is something I tried to explain in the last video. Bob McKenzie saying it's a rumor that there's these deals in place. Yeah, there might be contract offers out there, but I'm not going to report it because there's no real proof that there's actually a deal in place or there's contract offers out there. So he said they're rumors. Anything about that, like a 6-year deal, whatever, he hasn't heard anything about it. And he believes, yes, that there was some traction. They were talking. They met 2 days in a row. That's usually a good sign. Nylander was no longer practicing with this team and people freaked out saying a deal was done. Bob McKenzie said they were talking. The agent and Dubas were talking. Things looked to be progressing, but there was no deal in place. So for people freaking out saying, oh my God, what happened to this deal in place? There wasn't really any sort of deal in place. Bob McKenzie kind of put that to rest, saying the talks are getting better, but there's nothing really there. There's no real update. So that's why I wanted to show you guys those tweets and be like, hey, listen, there's really nothing there. So that's when it brings me to Let's see, should I go with... Okay, I'm going to bring up this Aaron Ward tweet. Okay, sorry, there's a lot of stuff that I have. So, he's saying, hearing Toronto Maple Leafs GM Kyle Dubas is in Carolina for Sharks-Canes game, and that was 18 hours ago from when I screenshotted it, and I believe that was, was like Friday or whatever, Thursday, Friday. Because when was that game on? Was that on last night? Sharks... I'm literally searching up the Sharks-Canes game from last night, I believe. Yes. So it was yesterday, so he was at that game. And again, the tweet's still up there, so here's another one as well. David Pagnotta, this is the guy that I brought up before when I brought up the Tavares stuff. He says, as it's been widely reported, the Hurricanes have been extremely high on William Nylander for a while. Talks have been back and forth lately. At NHL Aaron Ward reporting that the Leafs GM Kyle Dubas was at the Sharks-Canes game tonight. So, let's break this down sentence by sentence, basically. So, as it's been widely reported, Hurricanes have been extremely high on William Nylander for a while. Yes, they have, but again, if you listen to what Bob McKenzie has been saying, the Leafs have no interest in really shopping William Nylander at this point. There hasn't really been any sort of talks about, you know, him being on a trade block or anything like that, or any calls being out there. Apparently, again, this was late September, early October. I know time has passed, but apparently the Leafs were basically kind of like hanging up. Like, no, like, we're not moving him. Sorry, like, that's it. So, yeah, there have been talks when it comes to Hurricanes, the Hurricanes calling the Leafs, but as far as we know, the Leafs have kind of been like, like, sorry, dude, like, we're not really interested. The next thing is talks have been back and forth lately. Sorry, I don't really believe that. I don't, again, like, I don't have inside sources, but if a guy like David Pagnotta is picking up on stuff like this, no offense, but Friedman and McKenzie and Chris Johnston would know about this as well. And this is the thing I keep trying to bring up to people, is if you've got these random accounts like Rumor Break, which is the worst Twitter account of all time, and, you know, David Pagnotta, even though he is a little bit more, you know, reputable, I did not say that word right, reputable, there's more people like David Pagnotta that kind of have like inside stuff a little bit, but like they're not as big as everybody else, and that's no diss. I am nowhere near any of these guys when it comes to their career, but if they're picking up on it, usually guys like Freeman and McKenzie would hear this stuff too. So again, don't take this too crazy, because they probably would have heard about it, and like I said, he was at the game. So and here's the thing, people weren't freaking out as much when he was at like the Philly game or like the Rangers game, because he was being, you know, he was meeting up, but like people see that Carolina has like a surplus of defensemen, and then they go, oh yeah, this makes sense because the Leafs need a defenseman. This means there's going to be a trade. So like if let's say Dubas was in Pittsburgh, like people are going to be like, oh, he's watching the Pens game. You know, they're not really probably looking to shop a defenseman at this point. I don't really think that this makes sense, whatever. But then if you put him in Nashville, people are going to be like, oh my God, they have so many defensemen that the Leafs could get, this, that. Like, people are going to switch the mindset when it comes to different teams. And Carolina has obviously been interested, but that doesn't mean there's a ton of stuff. And I think this is going to be the last point I make here, and then I'll just say my last stuff. October 26th, so yesterday. This was before those earlier tweets. And I screenshotted this because I want you guys to be able to look it up on Twitter. I'm not going to play the whole video. I'm not going to play any of the video because I don't want to get copyright or anything like that. But so the title is about Bobrovsky and then what's happening with William Nylander. And Elliot Friedman, in my opinion, the best in the business, was with the NHL Network team talking about William Nylander. And he was talking about how the talks have gotten better, but there's no real update. So basically saying yesterday that all this talk about deals being in place and something being close, like, is really not happening. Like, it's not logical to think that this is actually something that's in place right now. So as talks progress with Dubas meeting with Nylander's agent, it's progressing in the fact that they're talking, but the dollar amount is still, the gap is still there. So I'm bringing this up and showing this because I want you guys to be able to search it, first of all, and along with the Bob McKenzie stuff. But just please, when you're listening to this stuff or reading this stuff, check, you know, back on some of the people reporting it, and really do your homework when it comes to some of these sources, because it's kind of all over the place at this point. And Chris Johnston, and Bob McKenzie and Elliot Friedman have tried to remain very, very, very clear that yeah, there's been some progress, but there's really no trade proposals that are in place. There's really no contract proposals that are in place up until now. And again, I'm recording this at 3 o'clock, 2:42 p.m., October 27th. So if you're coming at me saying I'm wrong because something else came out on Saturday Night Headlines from Friedman and Johnson, or if Bob McKenzie says something on TSN, I can't predict the future, like I said, but please take everything with a grain of salt, and I'm not sitting here acting like I have all the sources and all this other stuff like that. I wanted to bring you guys some facts, some proof, whatever, that not everything that you read is true, and maybe we should just wait this out. And it is unfortunate that William Nylander isn't in the lineup. It sucks that he's not playing right now with the Toronto Maple Leafs. But just let it happen. Let's let the talks happen. And hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you're new, make sure you subscribe. Love to have more hockey conversations with you. Join the squad. Let's get to 4,000 subscribers. Thank you guys very much. I'll see you guys in the next video or stream. Peace.